The dining room shimmered with candlelight roses wilting in a crystal vase. My necklace pressed against my throat, heavy and cold. Paul handed me wine, his smile too sharp for our 20th anniversary. His phone buzzed. Jenna flashed on the screen. My heart skipped, the rose's scent turning bitter. The air felt tight, squeezing my chest. I gripped the glass, fingers trembling slightly. Paul's eyes flicked to his phone, then back to me. "Work," he said, tucking it away. But I'd seen the photo, him and Jenna, her arm around him, taken today. 20 years of kids' recitals and late-night talks crumbled. Was our love a lie? My ring dug into my finger, a silent weight. "Happy anniversary," Paul said, his voice smooth, his hand unsteady. The candles flickered, shadows dancing on family photos. I forced a smile, my throat burning. Inside I whispered, "Am I invisible in my own home?" Our friends' group chat, usually alive, stayed quiet tonight. I was alone with the man who vowed forever. I set my glass down, the clink sharp in the silence. "Who's Jenna?" I asked, voice calm, heart racing. Paul froze, fork hovering midair. "A coworker," he said too fast. His cologne, new and biting, wasn't mine. The chair creaked as I leaned back. I was a stranger at my own table. That photo haunted me, Jenna's smile, her hand on him. Had she laughed in my kitchen, touched my kids? Lily's giggle from last week's barbecue faded in my mind. Betrayal wasn't just a word. It was my erasure. My pulse thundered. Would you swallow this pain or fight back? I stood, the necklace catching the light. "I need air," I whispered, barely audible. Paul's eyes followed, but he stayed still. The door clicked shut, roses clinging to my skin. That night I chose this wasn't my ending. Ever felt betrayed on a day that mattered? Where are you listening from? I woke to the soft hum of our Georgia home, coffee brewing in the kitchen. Morning light spilled across the fridge, glinting on family photos. My wedding ring felt heavier today, pressing into my skin. Paul's lie about Jenna from last night's anniversary dinner clawed at me. I poured coffee, its steam warm, but my hands still trembled. Was I holding on to a life that was already slipping away? The mug burned my palms, a fleeting distraction from the ache inside. I stared at the photos, Lily's gap-toothed grin, Ethan's soccer pose, 20 years of building this family, and now this doubt. My chest tightened like the air itself was turning 78. Could I still trust the man I'd loved since we were 20? The silence of the house pressed in louder than any answer. I drove to my real estate office, the radio a dull hum. Open houses filled my days, my smile a brittle mask. On my desk, a framed photo, Lily, Ethan, and me at the beach. Paul had taken it, always just out of the frame. I checked my phone, our group chat with friends stayed silent. Did they sense Paul's distance, or was I alone in this fear? The office air smelled of paper and faint lavender from a candle. I sat, my chair creaking, staring at the photo's faded edges. Every open house, every client smile, I'd carried our family's weight. Now Paul's lie felt like a crack in that foundation. Was I foolish to ignore his late nights for so long? My fingers traced the frame, seeking something solid to hold. Sunday dinner brought the kids' laughter, a fragile warmth. Garlic and rosemary wafted from the oven, anchoring my chaos. Lily, 16, set the table, her ponytail swaying as she hummed. Ethan, 12, kicked a soccer ball outside, his joy untouched. Paul walked in, his cologne sharp, not my Christmas gift. Long day, he said, his eyes sliding past mine. I stirred the pasta, my heart a knotted tangle. His phone buzzed on the counter screen, flashing briefly. I glimpsed Jenna before he snatched it away. Just a client, he muttered, his smile too tight. The kitchen clock ticked, each second a hammer on my nerves. Was I the only one hearing our life fracture apart? I remembered our early days, Paul's laugh at our first home's closing. We danced in an empty living room, drunk on forever. Those memories felt distant now, like someone else's story. His late nights, his deadlines had piled up unnoticed. I'd buried my doubts, gluing our family with both hands. My reflection in the window showed eyes too tired to lie. How long could I pretend this was still my life? The pasta steamed, but my appetite was gone. Every bite I served the kids felt like an act of will. Paul's hand brushed mine, and I flinched his touch foreign. Was the man I loved still in there, or was he gone? The weight of that question settled deep in my bones. Marissa called later as I folded laundry in the dim light. Her voice crackled blunt and warm, cutting through my haze. "Claire, Paul's gotta shine, and it's not from you." I laughed, but her words twisted like a knife in my gut. The laundry smelled of his new cologne, cold and unfamiliar. Was she seeing what I refused to face? Her words echoed, each one a spark to my buried rage. I folded Lily's shirt, its softness a contrast to my turmoil. 20 years of trust, and now this gnawing betrayal. My hands paused, the fabric crumpling under my grip. Could I keep ignoring the truth staring me down? The room felt smaller, the walls closing in. That night, Paul slept, his breathing steady, oblivious. His phone glowed on the nightstand, a silent challenge. My heart pounded, the dark wrapping around me. I hesitated, my fingers hovering, pulse loud in my ears. I typed his password, the screen unlocking with a click. A text from Jenna. "Miss you, babe. Tomorrow." My breath caught the room, spinning my world. Unraveling. The words burned, each one a fresh wound in my chest. The bedroom grew colder, our blanket too thin to warm me. 20 years, kids' mortgages, dreams shattered in a text. My hands shook, rage and grief warring inside. I closed the phone, the darkness swallowing my trust. The morning after, I stood frozen in our bedroom, Paul's phone still heavy in my mind. Jenna's text, "Miss you, babe," burned behind my eyes. The sunlight streamed through the curtains, too bright for my churning thoughts. My coffee sat cold on the nightstand, its bitter scent mocking me. I slipped my wedding ring off, its weight unbearable today. Was I losing my family to a woman I'd never met? I drove to the office, the car's hum, a faint distraction. My hands gripped the wheel, knuckles white, heart unsteady. Every stoplight felt like a pause in my unraveling life. I passed the cafe where Paul and I used to share breakfast. The memory stung, his laugh, his hand on mine now tainted. How many lies had I swallowed in those moments? At my desk, I opened my laptop, the screen's glow harsh. My email inbox blinked, but my focus drifted to Paul's account. His password, the kids' birthdays, was still the same. I hesitated, my fingers hovering, pulse loud in my ears. I logged in, heart pounding, and found a folder labeled Work. Inside, hotel bookings with Jenna dated weeks ago. My stomach twisted, the room tilting slightly. The office air smelled of stale coffee and printer ink. Each booking listed a weekend he'd claimed was for conferences. I clicked further photos of them, her smile too close to his. My chair creaked as I leaned back, breath shallow. Was I just a placeholder in his new life? I closed the laptop, my hands trembling, rage simmering. The family photo on my desk felt like a cruel joke. Lily's ponytail, Ethan's soccer ball, my reasons to keep going. But Paul's absence in that frame mirrored his absence now. I wanted to scream, to shatter the glass, but I didn't. Instead, I dialed Marissa, needing her blunt clarity. Her voice crackled through, warm but sharp. "Claire, you okay? You sound like you've seen a ghost." I told her about the emails, my voice breaking. She didn't hesitate. "Confront him, or you'll drown in this." I clutched the phone, her words a lifeline and a blade. But what if confronting him broke the kid's world? That night, Paul came home late, his tie loosened. The kitchen smelled of the lasagna I'd made, now cold. He grabbed a beer, his cologne sharp, Jenna's favorite scent. I stood at the sink, scrubbing dishes, my back to him. "Everything okay?" he asked, his tone too casual. My sponge slowed, water dripping, my heart a storm. I turned, meeting his eyes, searching for the man I knew. "Long day?" I asked, my voice steady, testing him. He nodded, sipping his beer, his gaze flickering away. The silence stretched thick with unspoken truths. I wanted to ask about Jenna, to spill the evidence, but my throat tightened, fear holding me back. Lily bounded in her school bag, slung over her shoulder. "Mom, can you help with my history project?" she asked. Her voice pulled me from the edge, grounding me. I smiled, nodding, my hands still wet from the sink. Paul watched us, his expression unreadable, distant. Was he already living a life I wasn't part of? Later, I tucked Ethan into bed, his soccer jersey on the floor. "Mom, you look sad," he said, his small voice piercing. I brushed his hair back my chest. "Aching with love. Just tired, buddy," I lied, kissing his forehead. His room smelled of grass and boyhood, pure and safe. I couldn't let Paul's betrayal taint this. Alone, I sat on the couch, the house quiet, too still. The living room lamp cast shadows on our wedding album. I opened it, tracing a photo of us, young and hopeful. My finger lingered on Paul's smile, now as strangers. How had I missed the moment he slipped away? The album felt heavy, like my fading trust. I checked my phone, the group chat still silent. No one to share this weight, no one to understand. Marissa's words echoed confront or drown. But confronting meant risking the life I'd built. I stared at Paul's jacket hung by the door, unfamiliar cologne clinging. If you found proof, would you confront or keep collecting? The auditorium buzzed with parents' stage lights casting a warm glow. I sat in the third row, my purse's leather biting my palm. Paul hadn't arrived, his absence a sharp, familiar ache. Ethan fidgeted beside me, his sneakers tapping the floor. The air smelled of polished wood and faint perfume. Was I fighting to hold a family already slipping away? The curtain rose, Lily's voice ringing clear as Juliet. Her costume sparkled, sewn by my late-night hands. Pride swelled, but my eyes scanned the crowd for Paul. Then I saw them, Paul and Jenna, whispering in the back. Her laugh, bright and careless, sliced through the applause. My heart stuttered, the room closing in around me. I clutched Ethan's hand, his small fingers anchoring me. Paul's shoulder brushed Jenna's, their ease a silent betrayal. Her perfume, sharp and floral, wasn't mine. I remembered our first date, a play, Paul's hand warm in mine. Now he belonged to her and I was fading. How had I become so easy to erase? Ethan whispered, "Pom, you okay?" his voice soft. I nodded, my throat tight, forcing a smile. Lily's lines about love pierced my chest, too raw. I'd built this life open. Houses, bedtime stories, sacrifices. Yet here among strangers, I felt invisible, discarded. My purse's zipper pressed into my skin, grounding me. I stood, murmuring, bathroom to Ethan. The hallway was stark, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I leaned against the wall, my pulse pounding, vision blurring. Jenna's laugh echoed in my mind, a cruel taunt. Her face in Paul's photos, her name in his emails. Was she already woven into my kids' lives? My hands shook the cold wall, steadying me. 20 years of trust now crumbling under her shadow. I'd found proof, hotel bookings, texts, but it wasn't enough. The hallway's sterile scent mixed with my rising anger. I wanted to storm back, confront them, but I froze. What if my rage shattered Lily and Ethan's world? Back in my seat, Paul caught my eye, his smile too quick. Jenna was gone, but her perfume lingered, a ghost. Lily's voice faded to a hum, my mind elsewhere. The emails, the photos, the lies, they were real. My fingers tightened around my purse, knuckles white. Could I keep pretending for the kids' sake? After the play, Lily ran to me, her eyes bright. "Mom, was I good?" she asked, breathless. I hugged her, her warmth pulling me from the abyss. "You were perfect," I said, my voice steady, heart racing. Paul joined us, clapping Ethan's shoulder, avoiding me. His cologne, her scent, twisted my stomach. In the car, the kids chatted the radio, a soft hum. Paul drove, his knuckles pale on the wheel. Streetlights blurred past my reflection, faint in the window. His betrayal weighed heavier now, a truth I couldn't ignore. I'd seen them together, felt their ease, their secret. Was I strong enough to face what came next? At home, I tucked Lily into bed. Her script by her pillow. "You looked so happy," I said, brushing her hair. Her smile faltered, her eyes searching mine, sensing. Her room smelled of lavender and teenage hopes. I kissed her forehead, love and fear warring inside. How could I shield her from this breaking? I tucked Ethan in his soccer jersey, crumpled on the floor. "Mom, you seem sad," he said, his voice small. "Just tired," I lied, smoothing his blanket. His room carried the scent of grass and boyhood. I lingered, my heart aching for his innocence. Paul's betrayal couldn't touch this, not yet. Alone in the kitchen, I poured tea, the mug warm. The house was still, the clock's ticks too loud. Paul's jacket hung by the door, reeking of her perfume. I opened my phone, Jenna's text glaring, "Miss you, babe." My pulse surged, anger no longer contained. The investigator's office smelled of leather and old coffee, dim light filtering through blinds. I sat across from him, my hands clasped, purse heavy on my lap. His folder lay between us, thick with Paul's secrets. My heart pounded, the air too thin to breathe. I'd hired him after the school play, needing proof beyond texts. Was I ready to face the truth about my marriage? He slid the folder forward, his voice gruff but kind. "Hotel receipts, photos, credit card charges," he said. I opened it, my fingers trembling, the paper cold. Paul and Jenna at dinners, vacations, places he'd never mentioned. A receipt from our anniversary weekend while I planned our dinner. My stomach churned, the room tilting slightly. The photos were worse, her hand on his, their smiles intimate. I recognized the restaurant, one we'd celebrated at years ago. The betrayal wasn't just recent, it was years deep. My wedding ring still on felt like a lie against my skin. I'd been a shadow in my own life for too long. How had I let love blind me this much? I drove home, rain streaking the windshield wipers loud. The folder sat on the passenger seat, a silent accusation. Every red light felt like a pause in my breaking world. I thought of Lily's play, Ethan's small hand in mine. They deserved a mother who fought, not one who faded. But could I shatter their home to save myself? Marissa met me at the house, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled. The kitchen smelled of the coffee she'd brewed, sharp and grounding. "You look like hell," she said, handing me a mug. I told her everything, receipts, photos, years of lies. "Leave him," she urged, her voice fierce, unwavering. My hands shook, the mug's heat barely reaching me. I called my mother, Ellen, needing her calm perspective. Her voice crackled through, soft but heavy with tradition. "Marriage is work, Claire. Forgive for the kids." Her words landed like stones, heavy with expectation. I stared at the family photos on the fridge, Lily's smile. Was forgiveness strength, or just another surrender? Alone, I sat on the couch, the house too quiet. The living room lamp cast shadows on our wedding album. I didn't open it, those memories felt stolen now. My reflection in the window showed a woman unmoored. I'd lost my place in my own story, my own home. The folder's weight pressed against my chest, relentless. I thought of confronting Paul, spilling every truth. His lies, Jenna's laugh, the receipts, all laid bare. But the kids' faces stopped me, their trust so fragile. I imagined Lily's tears, Ethan's confusion, our home fractured. My heart sank, the lowest it had ever been. Was I brave enough to rebuild from this ruin? The rain slowed outside, a faint patter on the roof. I clutched the folder, its edges digging into my palms. Paul's betrayal was no longer a question, it was fact. I'd hit rock bottom, but something stirred inside me. I wasn't done, not yet, not for me or my kids. The lawyer's office smelled of polished wood and fresh ink. I sat across from her, the investigator's folder open between us. My hands rested on my purse, its leather worn but steady. Rain tapped the window, a soft rhythm to my racing heart. Paul's betrayal, years of lies, was now undeniable proof. I wasn't broken anymore. I was ready to fight back. Ms. Carter, the lawyer, scanned the receipts, her pen clicking. "Your case is strong," she said, her voice calm, professional. I nodded, my throat tight, the folder's weight grounding me. Hotel bookings, photos, texts, each piece a brick in my wall. The office air felt sharp, like the edge of my resolve. Could I protect my kids and reclaim my life? I drove home, the rain slowing, wipers soft against the glass. Lily's play costume hung in the back seat, a reminder of her light. Ethan's soccer ball rolled on the floor, his innocence intact. I'd fight for them, not just for me, no matter the cost. The folder sat beside me, a map to my next steps. My reflection in the rear view showed a woman awakening. At home, I brewed coffee, its bitter scent filling the kitchen. The house was quiet, The kids at school, Paul at work. I opened my laptop, logging into our joint bank account. My fingers hesitated, then typed, revealing transfers I hadn't made. Paul had moved our money to an account I didn't know. My pulse surged, the screen's glow harsh in the dim light. I called Marissa, her voice a lifeline through the phone. "He's hiding money now," I said, my voice low, steady. "Get everything clear," she urged, fierce as ever. I printed statements, my hands trembling but deliberate. The printer's hum echoed my growing determination. Was I becoming someone Paul wouldn't recognize? I met Miss Carter again, bringing bank records, emails, photos. Her office felt safer now, a fortress for my fight. "We'll freeze the accounts," she said, jotting notes. I exhaled, the pen scratch, a promise of control. The folder grew thicker, each document a step toward justice. I wasn't just gathering evidence, I was rebuilding myself. Back home, I hid the folder in my office drawer, locked. The key felt cold, a small but heavy victory. I stood in the kitchen, the clock ticking softly. Paul's jacket hung by the door, still carrying her perfume. I didn't touch it. It no longer belonged in my space. Was I ready to rewrite the rules of this marriage? Lily came home, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "Mom, you seem different," she said, pausing by the fridge. I smiled, stirring soup, its steam warm and familiar. "Just focus, sweetheart," I said, my voice calm. Her eyes lingered, sensing a shift she couldn't name. I'd protect her world, even if mine was crumbling. Ethan bounded in his soccer jersey, grass-stained. Practice was awesome, he grinned, grabbing a juice. I ruffled his hair, his warmth easing my heart's ache. The kitchen smelled of soup and their energy pure. I held these moments close, fuel for what lay ahead. Could I keep their joy safe through the storm? That night I sat alone, the house still lamp glowing. I opened my phone, rereading Jenna's text, now months old. The anger hadn't faded, but it had sharpened, focused. I typed notes, dates, plans, a timeline of Paul's lies. My fingers moved with purpose, the screen a canvas. I wasn't his wife now. I was his reckoning. Marissa called, her voice crackling with urgency. "You're doing this right. No backing down." I gripped the phone, the couch's fabric soft under me. "No backing down," I said, my voice a vow. The lamp's light felt warmer, like it saw my strength. Was I crossing a line or claiming what was mine? I thought of confronting Paul, laying every truth bare. But no, not yet. I needed more planned precision. The idea of a surprise anniversary party sparked in my mind. A public stage, his lies exposed, my voice heard. My heart raced, not with fear, but with clarity. Would you go public with the truth or stay silent? Has betrayal ever pushed you to take a stand? Share your moment below. The backyard twinkled with fairy lights, my hands steady as I hung them. The idea of a surprise anniversary party had taken root. Paul thought it was for us, a celebration of 20 years. I stirred frosting for his favorite cake, the kitchen warm with vanilla. My heart raced, not with fear, but with purpose. This wasn't a party. It was my stage for justice. I called Marissa, her voice crackling through the phone. "You're really doing this, Claire?" she asked, half excited, half worried. I nodded, though she couldn't see my resolve ironclad. The frosting knife scraped the bowl, a sharp, satisfying sound. I'd invited Paul's family, Jenna and his co-workers, everyone. Was I orchestrating a reckoning or reclaiming my voice? The dining room table held my laptop screen glowing with evidence. I tested the projector, texts and photos crisp against the wall. Jenna's words, "Miss you, babe," loomed large, undeniable. Hotel receipts followed dates Paul had lied about. My fingers trembled, but I clicked through, unyielding. This wasn't revenge. It was truth laid bare. Lily wandered in her ponytail, swinging eyes curious. "Mom, why so many lights?" she asked, grabbing a carrot. I smiled, adjusting a centerpiece, the glass cool under my touch. "Just making it special," I said, my voice calm. Her gaze lingered, sensing something beneath my words. I'd shield her heart, but not my strength. I met Miss Carter one last time. Her office a familiar haven. The air smelled of ink and leather, steadying my nerves. Accounts are frozen, she confirmed, handing me papers. I tucked them into my purse, their weight a quiet victory. Paul's secret funds are shared savings now under my control. Was I becoming the woman he'd underestimated? Back home, I arranged chairs in the backyard dusk, settling soft. The grass smelled fresh, the evening air cool against my skin. I placed name cards, ensuring Jenna sat front and center. My hands moved with precision, each step deliberate. The projector hummed, ready to unveil Paul's lies. Could I hold my ground when the moment came? Ethan bounced a soccer ball nearby, his laughter light. "Mom, this looks awesome," he called, his grin wide. I ruffled his hair, his warmth fueling my resolve. The backyard glowed, fairy lights reflecting in his eyes. I'd fight for his future, for Lily's, for mine. Their joy was my why, my unbreakable anchor. I called Paul's sister, her voice warm but hesitant. "A party sounds lovely," she said, unaware of my plan. I kept my tone light, the phone cool against my ear. His parents, co-workers, our neighbors, all confirmed. The guest list was set, a net closing around Paul. Was this justice, or was I crossing a line? That night I stood in the kitchen, cake cooling on the counter. The house was still, the clock's tick soft but steady. I opened my phone, reviewing the slideshow one last time. Each image, text, receipts, photos felt like a reclaimed piece of me. My reflection in the window showed a woman unafraid. I wasn't his wife tonight. I was my own. Marissa stopped by, her nurse's scrubs swapped for jeans. She surveyed the backyard lights, twinkling chairs in rows. "This is bold, Claire," she said, her eyes gleaming. I handed her a glass of wine, its chill grounding me. "Bold or necessary?" I asked, my voice steady. She grinned, raising her glass, my fiercest ally. I thought of Paul, oblivious, working late again. His cologne, Jenna's scent, still clung to his jacket. I'd hung it in the closet, out of my space. The party was tomorrow, my plan locked in place. My heart thudded, anticipation sharp in my veins. Could I face him, her, and everyone unflinching? I tucked Lily into bed, her room soft with lavender. "You've been busy," she said, her voice sleepy but sharp. I kissed her forehead, her warmth a quiet strength. "Just showing love," I said, the lie, soft, protective. Her eyes held mine, trusting, unaware of the storm. I'd keep her safe, no matter what came next. Ethan was already asleep, his soccer ball by his bed. I smoothed his blanket, the room smelling of grass and boyhood. His small snores steadied me, a reminder of my purpose. I lingered, memorizing his peace, my heart full. This fight wasn't just for me, it was for them. Was I ready to flip the script on Paul's lies? The backyard lights glowed outside, a beacon in the dark. I stood at the window, the glass cool against my palm. Tomorrow, Paul would walk into my trap, unsuspecting. The projector weighted the evidence, ready to spill. My breath was steady, my fear burned away. Is this justice, or am I going too far? The backyard glowed under fairy lights, laughter rippling through the crowd. Guests mingled, wine glasses catching the soft evening light. I stood near the projector, my dress smooth, heart steady. The cake, Paul's favorite, sat pristine on the table. He chatted with his parents, oblivious, his smile easy. Tonight his lies would unravel, and I'd reclaim my truth. I clinked my glass, the chimes slicing through the chatter. Heads turned, eyes warm, expecting a heartfelt toast. My hands held steady, though my pulse thrummed. "Thank you for celebrating 20 years, I said, voice clear. The air carried fresh grass and vanilla frosting scents. Was I shattering their world or freeing my own? Jenna sat front and center, her smile brittle, uneasy. Her perfume, floral and sharp, drifted to me, taunting. Paul stood nearby, his tie, loose eyes locked on me. I pressed the projector's remote, the screen flaring to life. Jenna's text, "Miss you, babe," flashed, gasps erupting. My chest tightened, the truth now, alive, unstoppable. Hotel receipts followed, dates Paul had called work trips. Photos appeared, him and Jenna laughing, hands entwined. The crowd stilled, glasses clinking as hands froze mid-sip. Paul's face drained, his mouth agape, silent. Jenna's chair scraped as she stood, eyes darting. I gripped the remote, its cold metal grounding me. 20 years, I said, my voice cutting through the hush. I loved, trusted, built a home while he betrayed me. Fairy lights cast shadows on stunned faces around me. Paul's mother clutched her necklace, tears pooling. His sister stared, her wineglass trembling, betrayed. Was this justice, or had I pushed too far? Jenna fled, her heels clicking down the stone path. Whispers swelled, a wave of shock rolling through. Paul stepped forward, his voice low, pleading. Claire, please, let's talk alone, he urged, hands out. I shook my head, the projector's glow unyielding. His lies belonged to everyone now, not just me. Lily ran to me, her arms tight around my waist. I'm proud of you, Mom, she whispered, fierce. Her warmth steadied me, her ponytail soft against my arm. Ethan stood close, eyes wide, but he didn't flinch. The backyard smelled of earth and shattered promises. I'd bared the truth, but what would follow? Paul's father approached, his face stern, eyes heavy. We didn't know, Claire, he said, glancing at Paul. His mother followed, her hand gentle on my arm. I'm so sorry, she murmured, her voice breaking. Co-workers shifted, some slipping away, others staring. Had I broken his world or claimed my freedom? Marissa caught my eye, her grin sharp across the yard. She raised her glass, a silent nod of respect. The music faded, silence thick with unspoken judgment. Paul stood alone, his shoulders slumped, exposed. My chest felt lighter, a weight lifting at last. But a quiet doubt lingered. Was this enough? I turned off the projector, the screen fading to black. Guests began to drift away, footsteps soft on grass. The cake remained untouched, its frosting softening. I looked at Lily and Ethan, their faces my strength. The night air cooled my skin, whispering of new beginnings. Could I rebuild from this night's wreckage? Paul approached, his eyes hollow, voice faint. Claire, I'm sorry, he said. Hands empty, useless. I met his gaze, seeing a stranger, not my husband. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust, I said, voice even. He nodded, turning away, his shadow long and frail. I stood taller, 20 years' weight slipping off. The backyard emptied, fairy lights still twinkling. I gathered plates, their clinks grounding me in quiet. Lily helped, her silence strong, her presence enough. Ethan stacked chairs, his small frame steady, resilient. The night smelled of dew and raw closure. I'd faced them all, him, her, everyone, and stood firm. Paul's parents lingered, their faces etched with shame. We'll talk to him, his father said, voice gruff. I nodded, my hands full of plates, heart full of resolve. Their apology meant little, but they're respected. The projector sat silent, its job done, truth told. Was this the end of his story, or the start of mine? I thought of Jenna, her flight, her shame exposed. Her perfume no longer haunted me. It was gone. Paul's cologne, once hers, was just a memory now. I set the plates down the table, bare like my heart. The fairy light swayed, a soft glow of hope. I was free, but what shape would freedom take? Lily touched my arm, her eyes bright, knowing. You're strong, Mom, she said, her voice soft. I hugged her, her warmth a balm to my soul. Ethan joined, his hug fierce, his soccer scent grounding. The backyard felt smaller, ours, not Paul's anymore. I'd claimed my voice, my truth, my family. Marissa stayed, helping clear the last glasses. You did it, Claire, she said, her voice warm. I smiled, the wine glass cold in my hand. The night was mine, the truth, mine, the future mine. I looked at the stars, the air clean, my heart open. Would you have done the same or chosen differently? My new townhouse glowed with morning light, coffee brewing softly. The kitchen counter was bare, but it was mine, truly mine. Lily's music pulsed from her room, a vibrant hum. Ethan's soccer ball rolled across the backyard, his shouts bright. 5 years after that shattering anniversary party, I'd rebuilt. My heart, once weighed by betrayal, now felt light-free. The move was tough, but the kids flourished here. Our old house, Paul's, lies belonged to a past life. I sipped coffee, its warmth steadying my hands. My old wedding ring was gone, a simple band in its place. It wasn't loss, it was a choice, a reclaimed self. Was I enough for them, for me, for this new chapter? I founded a women's support group meeting every Thursday. The community center smelled of old books and chalk dust. Women shared stories, betrayal, pain, and paths to healing. I spoke my truth, my voice growing stronger each week. Their eyes sparked with hope, mirroring my own journey. I'd turned my scars into a legacy of resilience. Lily, now 21, designed flyers for the group. "Mom, you're saving people," she said, her eyes proud. I hugged her, her hair soft scented with lavender. She'd watched me crumble, then rise unyielding. Her faith in me was my deepest triumph. Could I pass that strength to her future? Ethan, 17, burst in his soccer jersey damp. "We crushed it, Mom," he grinned, raiding the fridge. I ruffled his hair, his energy warming my soul. The kitchen table held his medals, my journals, our story. He'd grown tall, free from Paul's shadow. My fight had kept their worlds intact, bright. Paul and I co-parented, distant but functional. He lived in a small apartment, his life diminished. His family respected me, now their apologies earnest. I didn't carry hate. I'd outgrown his betrayal. This townhouse was my sanctuary, my rules, my peace. Was closure found in letting go, or building anew? I opened my laptop, emails from group members, waiting. "Thank you, Claire 1. Read its words, heavy with gratitude. I typed replies. My fingers sure heartful. The group grew our stories, weaving a tapestry of hope. Each woman's healing echoed mine, a shared victory. I wasn't alone. I'd built a sisterhood. Sundays we picnicked at the park, the kids beside me. The grass smelled fresh laughter, light in the air. Lily sketched under a tree, Ethan chased a ball. I read the book's pages, soft moments pure. These were my legacy, love, joy, a chosen life. Would they carry this resilience forward? I remembered that night, the projector's stark light, Jenna's retreat, Paul's shame, the crowd's silence. It wasn't vengeance. It was my truth spoken loud. The fairy lights faded, but my fire didn't. My reflection in the glass showed a woman whole. I'd faced betrayal and crafted a life beyond it. Marissa dropped by, her laughter filling the kitchen. "You're unstoppable, Claire," she said, sipping tea. I smiled, the mug warm, the room bright with us. She'd been my rock, fierce through every storm. Our bond, like this home, was unbreakable. Was this the true meaning of healing? I stepped outside, evening air, cool stars waking. Ethan's soccer ball rested near the porch worn. I picked it up, its leather familiar grounding. Lily joined me, her sketchbook tucked close. We stood the townhouse, glowing hours alive. My story wasn't finished, it was just beginning. Justice isn't loud, it's steady, rooted deep. Closure isn't final, it's a door to new beginnings. My legacy wasn't pain, it was love, strength, hope. I looked at my kids, my home, my soul. I was enough, and they were too. Have you ever rebuilt after betrayal? Share below. Have you risen from betrayal's ashes? Share your journey below and join N Reddit story for more stories of courage and healing.